Welcome to Bedtime Myths and Mysteries. There's a rule found all over the world that sounds harmless until you're alone at night. People say not to whistle after dark, not because it's rude, but because something might answer. Most people don't remember when they first learned not to whistle at night. They'll tell you it was just something people said. A warning from a parent, a half-joking scold from a grandparent, a rule that sounded silly in daylight and heavier after dark. That's the strange thing about it. The rule almost never comes with an explanation, just the certainty. Don't do that. Across cultures that never spoke to one another, never shared borders, never shared gods, the warning is the same. Not about screaming, not about singing, not even about shouting into the dark, just whistling. In Japan, children are told that whistling at night calls snakes or thieves or something worse that wears a human shape. In rural areas, the warning is blunt. If you whistle, something will come, not might, will. In parts of Eastern Europe, whistling after sunset is said to summon the forest itself. The leshy, the spirit that mimics human sounds, is believed to listen for whistles the way hunters listen for footsteps. You whistle and it knows where you are. You whistle and it answers. In Britain and Ireland, the belief shifts tone but not meaning. Night whistling is associated with death omens. To whistle after dark was to invite a presence that already knew your name and might soon speak it. Different places, same rule. That alone should make you pause. Anthropologists will tell you this is coincidence. Psychologists will say it's fear conditioning. Sociologists will argue it's about discouraging noise at night. But folklore doesn't usually converge this cleanly by accident. Whistling is a strange sound. It's not speech and it's not music. It's not language, but it carries intent. It's directional, it cuts through ambient noise. In the dark, it travels farther than you think, especially in forests, alleyways, and open fields. And in many traditions, it's not the whistling that's dangerous. It's the answer. Old stories rarely describe monsters appearing instantly. They describe something subtler. A pause, a silence, and then a second whistle, just slightly off-key. Close enough to be wrong, far enough away to be uncertain. In Scandinavian maritime lore, sailors were warned never to whistle at night on deck. During the day, whistling was harmless. At night, it was believed to summon wind spirits, or worse, something beneath the water that followed sound. Sailors, who ignored the rule, often reported storms that rose without warning. Calm seas turning violent in minutes. Not proof, but pattern. Among several Native American traditions, night whistling is discouraged because it attracts wandering spirits. Some stories say the spirits mistake the sound for a call, others say they don't mistake it at all. They know exactly what it is. Modern listeners like to dismiss this as superstition, but here's where it gets uncomfortable. People still report it, not the stories, the response. A man walking his dog late at night whistles without thinking. A habit. The dog freezes, ears up, tail rigid. Then from somewhere behind the trees, not echoing, not distant, comes a whistle back. Same tune, same rhythm, just flatter, like it's being remembered rather than played. A teenager cutting through a park whistles to steady his nerves. He hears movement in the bushes and stops. A moment passes, then the whistle resumes, exactly where he left off. He doesn't run, he just walks faster. Whatever is following doesn't hurry. It doesn't need to. A woman on a balcony in an apartment block whistles absent-mindedly while scrolling on her phone. From another balcony, one she knows is empty, comes the reply. Not loud, not mocking, almost curious. These accounts don't end with monsters leaping from the dark. They end with people going inside, locking doors, turning on lights, and never whistling at night again. Skeptics will say it's mimicry. Animals can imitate sounds. Wind carries echoes. The brain fills in gaps when it's anxious. All of that is true. But folklore isn't built on single explanations. It's built on repetition, on rules that survive, because people keep learning them the hard way. There's another detail that shows up again and again. In many stories, the answering whistle only happens once. Not a conversation, not a back and forth. Just enough to let you know you were heard. In Slavic folklore, it's said the leshy will mimic your whistle perfectly the first time and poorly the second. If you answer back, you're agreeing to be led astray. That's why the old rule isn't just don't whistle, it's never answer. In Mexico and parts of Central America, legends about La Lechuza and other skin stealers often include whistling as a lure. The sound is human, the source isn't. The closer you think it is, the farther away you're meant to go. Sound, after all, is easier to follow than sight in the dark. There's a reason these stories rarely involve flashlights, phones, or fire. They're older than that. They're about being alone, unlit, and heard. Even in places where the folklore has faded, the discomfort remains. People laugh it off during the day. At night they hesitate. They stop themselves mid-note. They don't know why. That's the most interesting part. Rules that survive without explanation usually started with one. Something happened enough times that someone said, "Don't do that," and someone else listened. Maybe it was animals reacting strangely. Maybe it was echoes doing impossible things. Maybe it was people answering whistles that didn't belong to anyone. Or maybe it was just fear. But fear doesn't usually spread this evenly across the world. If whistling at night were harmless, cultures would have invented different taboos. Singing, laughing, talking to yourself. Instead, they all chose the same sound. A sound that says, "I'm here." And in the dark, that might be the last thing you want to announce. Because if something answers, and it's closer than it should be, you don't get to pretend you imagined it. You already called, and now something knows exactly where to look.